Hi everyone, the subject of today's video training is how to train alone and become a strong master. I think it even appears in the title. So how to do it? We are speaking, of course, about backgammon. Backgammon is a game that many people play just for fun, just for pleasure. They throw the dice, they move the checkers, they try to reach home safely, to hit some checkers on the road, maybe to create some problems for the opponent. Most people are not really familiar with the basic strategical fundamentals of backgammon or even the use of the doubling cube. They don't know about match play, about special rules. They just play for fun, and somebody can do that for all of his life. Now, this training is going to start quite easy and general, which is the way that you should start if you want to train for some kind of a high goal. But as we progress into the video, the lesson is going to become more and more technical, more and more analytical, more and more specific. So obviously watch as much as you're comfortable with. If you're just starting out, probably some of the tips near the beginning should already give you a great direction. And many people obviously are going to find very little new in the first half maybe of this video, so they can already skip into the analytical part in the second half, and we're going to be covering some very general tips. The only reason I can speak about how to train alone and become a strong master is because I did it myself. Coming from a chess background, I'm a chess expert. 8 years ago, at age 45, I discovered some online resources, and I started to teach myself the game at a higher level. And okay, let's go. Let's hit the road. Let's start speaking about this training. We will start by sharing our screen here. And what we see here is probably the world's strongest backgammon software. Obviously, there are many talented and capable players in the world. However, this software is a neural network, just like we have in chess and in Go and in some other games. We know that artificial intelligence has achievements in many fields that are already beyond what human beings can do. These are self-training programs. They teach themselves certain tasks, and because of their incredible processing power, they reach levels of precision that human players have been dreaming about for many decades. This specific piece of software was, if I remember correctly, released somewhere around 2010. I believe that one of the people behind its development is a great figure in the backgammon world named Phil Simborg. We're going to return to him later. And this is basically the strongest backgammon playing software in the world. It doesn't only play the game very well, it can also point out errors and mistakes and tell us when we are playing well, when we are playing not so well, for every given move. For example, if I roll 4-1 in the opening position and I take down a checker from this point and move it here with the 4, take down a checker from here and move it here with the 1, and the software can tell me if this is the best move or not so good, etc. And it can evaluate our games and also tell us where we are making errors, how big are the errors, are they very big errors, are they blunders, are they small errors, tiny errors. And over time, the more we play games and matches, it can tell us what is our average error size. And according to our average error, how many mistakes we make or how much value we drop per unit of play, we can actually know how good we are. So if we look here, this is the site of the Backgammon Masters Awarding Body. It's called BMAB, Backgammon Masters Awarding Body. It's an international organization made up of some great grandmasters and administrators. And basically, you send your play, your matches, your backgammon matches that you analyze with this software, and they calculate your average error rate, and they give you a title. And we can see that it comes in numbers. So, for example, if you have something like 16 or 14, that means that you are already much, much, much better than most of the players in the world. There are many people in the world who are convinced that they know everything there is to know about backgammon. Nobody can teach them anything new, but they don't even know the doubling cube. They are sure that they're making the best strategical plays, but they also believe that it doesn't matter so much what you play, how you move. Backgammon is basically a matter of luck, and if you get the good dice, the good results will happen. But it so happens that we can actually affect the result of the game by choosing our plays correctly and carefully. And most players, the vast majority of players who haven't really studied the game seriously, will get scores of error rates, we can call it PR, performance ratings, way above 14 or 16. So if somebody can reach 16 or 14 as an average, they're doing really, really well, and they have an intermediate level. An intermediate student would defeat most of the players in the world routinely. Nobody can tell what will be the result of any one game, but by average, if you take an intermediate player and you make them play an evening, a couple of hours against somebody who never studied, they will score pretty heavily. Above that, we have the level of like 10 or 850. That's called advanced level, already quite strong players. That these players really, with the right dice, they can easily upset even the best grandmasters and super grandmasters in the world. These players understand a lot about the game. They're still lacking some of the finesses, some of the precision, some of the more advanced ideas. But obviously, these players are head and shoulders also above these intermediates. Notice this last level of advanced, this 750. This one is also called expert level, just next door to the masters. Once you go below an error rate of 6.5, you are a master. And if you push your rating below 5.5 or 5 or something like that, you're beginning to approach the higher levels and you're quite a strong master. This is pretty much the level that I managed to reach. Basically, like 5 years after starting, I started 8 years ago. This video is going to be a little bit about my personal journey with some recommendations. What did I do? How did I get there? By studying alone. And we're going to start very, very generally. So we have here, the list of the strongest players on the planet, the masters, the grandmasters. We have something like 500 masters in the world. A quarter of them are grandmasters and up. The strongest level is a super grandmaster. And I'm going to be somewhere in this list, probably here around the 200s, here 220. And this is the error rate, 4.77, pretty strong master. You can find in my playing card with my level, with some of my matches. And the question is, how do you get there? What was the beginning of my own journey? So my own journey started one day in September of 2017. At this recording, it's exactly 8 years ago. I was 45 years old. And somebody told me actually that I'm not really a good player. I was playing in a club with many chess players and backgammon players. That happened in Mexico. And some of the players told me, listen, you don't understand anything about the game. And later I wandered a little bit online and I found some resources. And the first one I really hit was this amazing book. This book really I ran into completely randomly in my internet searches about backgammon. And apparently this book completely changed many things about even my life, I can say, because really 8 years ago, I was the kind of player who just plays, rolls the dice. I knew that there was such a thing as a doubling cube, but I didn't understand much about how to use it. I was playing casually for over 30 years, and I didn't even suspect that the game has any depth. And this book, by one of the greatest players and theoreticians that the world of backgammon has ever known, Paul McGreal, who passed away in 2018, but who was also, if I remember correctly, a champion also of bridge and maybe of other games as well. And he wrote a primer on backgammon in 1976. All of the basic ideas and strategies of the game are covered here in great detail, divided into chapters. Every chapter presents a different concept. And if you read this book from cover to cover, it's a little bit old-fashioned. Obviously, we didn't have computers back in 76. Computers changed many things about the way that we play the game today. And the leading players in the 70s have had several habits that later were found out to be not so good. However, if somebody wants to just get started and they never studied backgammon in their life, this book is great because even if some of the details are not applicable today and you don't play that way, but this book also teaches a certain way of thinking, a certain attitude to the game, which is very solid until today, and you can always change some ideas or some concepts or adapt some things into modern times, but this book gives you really, really the basics. After I read this book, I started already winning some tournaments in Mexico and elsewhere. It was already an amazing start, and you get a feeling that you know what you're doing. You have a solid foundation. I really recommend this book as a start. And obviously, if somebody wants a start that is a little bit more modernized, you can replace this book or enrich it. You can read this one and then later read the other ones, or just skip this book altogether and read the book, actually a series of 3 books by the Danish grandmaster Mark Olsen, who also wrote several other books. There is a book about strategy. I currently don't really remember its name, something about maybe basic strategy or deep strategy. You can find these books, of course, in the Backgammon Galaxy shop. You see the URL, shop.backgammongalaxy.com. This one is Cube like a box, like a boss. And there is a third book as well. I read all three of them several years ago. They're all really, really excellent. They provide a modern foundation for the game. But obviously, what I specifically appreciate about this book by Paul McGreal, the one that we saw before, here, no, this one, Backgammon by Paul McGreal, is obviously the writing style, which is completely captivating. You cannot stay indifferent, very rich in examples. I mean, of course, also the Mark Olsen books are very rich with example and analysis and computer analysis, but McGreal didn't have computers, so he had to convince us by his own um, understanding. And also, McGreal is speaking into a world in which people just don't know about backgammon because he's really the beginning or the founder of modern backgammon theory. And as you advance and you read books that are written already in the 2000s, many of them already assume some kind of a knowledge or some kind of a culture, a culture where a beginner can go to a club or go online and ask people questions. So you don't have to write everything out if you are writing a book after 2000 or 2010. Not so in 1976. Everything is explained to the utmost detail. And this was really the beginning of my journey. And after that, I went to this beautiful portal that I want to introduce to you. This is called Backgammon Galore, bkgm.com. And this website, this platform, has an extraordinary wealth of backgammon articles of all types, of all levels. Notice that it says humor. Phil Simborg, again, is one of the funniest authors that I ever read. He's not the only one who writes humorously, but it's really entertaining. And of course, if you want to learn, there is nothing like some annotated match. These two guys, Kit Woolsey and Jeremy Bagai, other than being extraordinary players who have been active for decades, and they have amazing writing style and humor in the writing. It's very engaging and captivating, and it makes the journey very pleasant. For some people, it makes it even possible. I don't think that I would survive in the world of backgammon as an improving beginner if these people didn't write so well and so engaging, and they really want you to go deeper and to experience the game and its intricacies. And it's really hard, once you begin to get into this special world of backgammon writing. If you are like me, it's really hard to let go of that, and you really want to know more and understand more. Annotated matches, they take you step by step. This is just one of them. There are many matches in this site. How to look for them, I'm not sure. I'm not sure, but they pop up in the articles. Here you see the articles. You can search them by topic or by authors. We're going to do that soon and see how it goes. And yes, annotated matches, some of them come with the modern computer evaluation so that you can compare the plays to what the computer says. Some of them don't have computer evaluation. So you just read what the authors write about it and you learn how they think, how they approach positions. And you begin to enrich your own understanding of the game. We're going to do a little bit of that in the second part of the video, you will see. But for now, we are exploring this resource, how to play the opening rolls, very important, how to handle the doubling cube, all about GNU Backgammon. That's another very good software, not as good as Extreme Gammon, etc., etc. And you can browse the articles by author. Let's click on this. You see, there are many, many backgammon authors. And some of the outstanding ones, obviously, wrote a large number of articles. We can look again at Kit Woolsey. We just spoke about him. Woolsey Kit, 70 articles here. Phil Simborg, we mentioned him several times already in this video. Phil Simborg, 62 articles. Bill Roberti, also one of the early giants, with an R. Roberti, where is he? Roberti, 51 articles, etc., etc. You have many, many amazing writers. Obviously, I haven't read every article on the website, but by these three authors that I just mentioned, I read quite a lot. And as you browse, you are going to see who you learn more from, who do you learn less from. You can also browse by topic and decide to focus, on tactics, on strategy, on general topics. So inside cube handling, you can look into holding games and blitzers. There is a lot of terminology in backgammon. Don't feel like you have to know everything starting right away. There is even a dictionary for backgammon terms. You can go and clear the terms and really learn how we speak about these games. Very interesting, very recommended. This resource, bkgm.com. So I was reading McGreal and I was swallowing many, many articles. And a year later, I got myself this book from the Fortuitous Press. What an amazing name for a publishing house for backgammon games. Again, we meet here Jeremy Bagai. who is responsible for the second edition of this amazing book, Backgammon Bootcamp, by Walter Trice, who passed away. So it was Jeremy Bagai who improved his original book 10 or 11 years later. A boot camp, it means hard work, and it means that you take somebody from beginner and you make him more knowledgeable about, again, I come back to Phil Simberg, and he says backgammon is not a game of luck, it's a game of probabilities. And we need to learn how to calculate them if we want to get good. And this book is full of various levels of mathematical analysis, statistical analysis. How do we calculate what is likely to happen? And like another great giant of the game, I think it was Zdeněk Žižka who said that, or maybe it's even in this book. What is likely to happen? What is likely to happen if what is likely to happen doesn't happen? And what is likely to happen if also what is likely to happen when what is likely to happen doesn't happen. If this doesn't make sense, pause it, rewind it for a minute, listen again, maybe write it down, and you will get it. What are the likeliest scenarios in the game? How the game is likely to develop? What happens in the other scenarios? How likely they are? More about this later, but these are really the makings of the strong players, the ability to understand and to predict in general lines where the game is going. This comes from familiarity, for having played many games, spoken about games, analyzed game. Obviously, you want to go to clubs, physical clubs, go online, play some games with stronger players, discuss the game, discuss the moves, discuss the errors and the mistakes. But the books already teach you, and the books and the articles, how we think about the game. And you can totally train alone and make yourself into a strong player. Obviously, there are many video resources there, and you can buy many courses online. I didn't use that route so much, but it is there and it is available, and it's totally possible to make it even without a teacher. Let's focus on some other specific resources here that I was using. This article, again, we meet Jeremy Bagai, is about the second roll of the game. We go again and we look at the game. Let's say that black rolled 4-1, and you want to know how you are going to answer every possible roll now for white. How do you play after the first player played, for example, 4-1? How do you play from here? That's easy. Double sixes, but also double fours, double threes, 4-3, 4-1, 4-2, 5-4. Every possible roll, you need to know how you play and why. No matter what the opening roll was. I could have started instead of 4-1, I could have started with 6-2, with 6-3, with 6-4. 6-4, there are several options to play it. Okay, it sounds quite complex, but apparently Jeremy Bagai makes it simple by introducing several simple rules for how to play in this article, which I recommend not as the first thing to do on your journey, but already after reading a couple of books, maybe studying a couple dozen articles, playing some game, discussing some game, and you want to get good. You don't want to keep making the same mistakes because obviously these positions repeat themselves. The first move, the second move, at some point you run out of possible rolls, and it will be the 10th time that your opponent rolled 4-1 and you roll 6-2, and what to do now. So this article is really great. A little bit later, what else do we have here? Yeah, we spoke earlier. Yeah, it's amazing how often we meet this guy, Jeremy Bagai. Really amazing. So we meet him once again. Remember that we spoke about how the players of the 1970s, like Paul McGreal, had certain habits or way of playing or ways of thinking that are no longer customary today because they were proven inaccurate by the neural networks. So in this book by Jeremy Bagai, he revisits many of these positions by Paul McGreal and by some other, also Bill Roberti, I think, some other of these early writers from the 70s and the 60s. There is another guy named John Dweck, I think, and some other people taking their books and finding out where they really got it wrong, what was their thinking, what does the computer say today, and why actually the modern move gets better results, is more accurate. We're going to dive into some of this analysis later in this video, but obviously the books are taking us exactly to those places. That's how you become a master. You learn how to think about the game, how to predict certain situations, how to calculate some probabilities. I'm not telling you the entire story in these videos. There are many parts that are left out. I'm speaking about a personal journey, but there are so many things inside it that you will only discover once you start opening these articles and learning them and find yourself into completely new conceptual worlds that are part and parcel of how a strong master plays backgammon day by day. If you play day by day, some people don't. Anyway, Classic Backgammon Revisited by Jeremy Paul Bagay, very recommended, not as a first book, but eventually. Okay, this is a really advanced book. You don't strictly necessarily need it in order to become a master, but maybe for the beyond. This is a very, very advanced book by Zdeněk Žižka, one of the best players in the world, grandmaster, almost super grandmaster Žižka, who is just in his mid-20s now, and he studied with another great player that is no longer with us today, a guy named Falafel. His original name was, I think, Matvey, something else or other. I can't remember his actual name. I never met him. Unfortunately, he passed away very young, at the age of just over 50 in 2020, but he might have been the greatest backgammon player that we ever knew. You can still watch some of his interviews, video interviews. He knew a lot about the game. He had an amazing instinctive method. And basically, he was the personal tutor of Zdeněk Žižka, who gives a lot of tribute to him in this book. And a lot of his way of thinking, his way of analyzing, really methodically examining every possible role of your opponent before making your move, grouping his roles together according to common themes, and telling yourself the stories. It's called dominating backgammon through storytelling. Telling yourself the stories, what are the stories that are likely to come out of a given position, understanding them better, and really getting an amazingly low error rate, just like Zdeněk himself proves. We're going to look at one of the most popular platforms for online backgammon. It's called Backgammon Galaxy, and for several years, Zdeněk was number one in his rating on that platform. I'm not sure how highly rated he is today. I no longer follow that platform so much, but I remember back in the day when I used to play there a lot, he was there really almost the undisputed number one. Occasionally, he was taken over by another strong and young British player named Ryan Rebello, but most of the time it was him. And this book is awesome, but it's a really, really difficult book. Mostly recommended to people who are already masters or almost masters, but I just included here for the sake of completion. Let's briefly look at the two leading backgammon platforms, and later we are going to dive a little bit into some actual technical work. The two leading backgammon platforms today for playing matches, I should say something about that first. We go back here. Yes, we go back here again into extreme gammon, and let's look at something here. I'm going to start a new match. Look, notice that here in the menu it says match and it says unlimited games. Let's understand what's the difference between the two. We're not saving the game. And here you see that he gives us the opportunity to start a new match or a new session of unlimited games. By the way, this software comes with its own help files. It's basically a book. You can open this book here under the help menu. You go to, where do you go? I think you go to content, if I'm not mistaken. Yeah, that's the book. It's a big book. It has, I think, around 100 pages. I really recommend this software. It's an amazing software for study and for improvement. It is a big part of the improvement journey, as we're going to cover very shortly. And of course, once you buy it, it doesn't cost a lot. It's like 50 or 60 US dollars. You buy it, you install it on your computer. The first thing I really recommend to read through this manual from start to finish and really learn how to use it. It's a very clever software, many features that help a lot with learning and playing and improving and analyzing. It does many things. We're going to cover some of them in this video later in the technical part. But now let's look at this thing between unlimited games and match play. We're going to say a few words about that. So we start a new match. We say new match, but then it gives us the choice between, we're going to see this in a minute. Yes, between match play and unlimited games. What is the difference between match play and unlimited games? If I play unlimited games, it means that every game stands on its own. When you play backgammon, you can score different numbers of points per game. Normally, you play for 1 point. You see, this is our doubling cube here. It is turned to 64, and it's right in the middle between the two players. This means that they're playing for 1 point. You see that this cube has also other numbers like 2 and 16, 2, 4, 8, 16. Normally, most of these cubes don't have the number 1. So when you just play for 1 point, it's in the center and it says 64. So normally, if you win the game, you get a point. There are other ways of winning games. I'm not going to go into that, but you can win different numbers of points in one game. A game can be worth 2 points, or 3, or 4, or 6, or 8, or 12, or 16, and the numbers go on and on. But when you play unlimited games, each game stands on its own. Let's say that you play for $1 each game. So I can win a game for 2 points and you pay me $2. Then I can lose a game for 3 points and I pay you $3. And every game stands on its own, and we can play unlimited. We can play a long sessions of many games and then continue on the day after. And each game is an independent unit. You can start whenever you want. You can end whenever you want. These are unlimited games. Match play is very different because in a match play, you play to a set result. Here he asks me to determine the match length. How long are we going to be playing for? Let's say that we play until 7. Normally, it's going to be an odd number. So we play until 7 or until 5 or 9 or 11, not so much until 12 or 4 or 6 or 8. It's not done. You see, if I click the arrow here, it doesn't go to 8, it goes to 9. It's the odd numbers. Yes, match to 7, match to 9. So we play to a preset number of points, and many things are different when we play to this kind of a match. For starters, when I play unlimited games, each game stands on its own and all games are the same. However, if I play a match to 7 points and I'm already leading 5-0, obviously I only need 2 points. And I like the games to be, very calm games. And I like the stakes to be low. I want the cube to stay on 1. I don't want the cube to move very much, because if the cube moves to 2 or to 4, or God forbid to 8, if the cube is on 8 and this game is worth 8 points and I'm leading 5-0, my advantage lost all of its value. It doesn't matter that I'm leading. But if the cube is, of course, in the center and we are playing for 1 point, then my advantage counts 5-0. So you see, I don't play the same way if I'm leading 5-0 or if the score is equal or if I'm from behind 5-0 and I want all kind of aggressive things to happen. I want high cubes, without entering into details. Match length, match play is a lot more complicated than unlimited games. So when we are learning the games, for example, when I started in 2017, for the first 2 or 3 years, I never played any matches and I shied away from them. I didn't want to play matches because I understood that match play has a lot of complexity that I don't want to go into. I wanted to become a really good player with the doubling cube and with the checkers in unlimited games, which is relatively simple and easier to master. And only when I became a player of around the performance rating 11 or something like this, if you remember it from earlier 11, we saw this. We saw this here, the levels. You remember that this is kind of the beginning of advanced level. You say goodbye to intermediate. You say hello, goodbye intermediate, hello advanced. This level, more or less, it started to make sense to start learning about how to play matches because already I had a relatively good idea about the games, the typical plays, a sense of harmony between the different checkers and points and the field, how to distribute them well. You begin to feel the game a little bit once you reach this level, and then you say, okay, now that I have a basic understanding of the game, let's adjust it a little bit for match play. Let's play a bit more conservative when I'm behind, a bit more aggressively when I'm ahead. And there are other things to match play. It really goes very, very specific. When you reach the higher levels, it really matters. I mean, it's not enough to know that you are leading. The different scores have different meanings. Believe me, you don't want to get into that too early. So my advice would be forget about match play until you are at least a reasonably good player, maybe an error rate of 12 or of 10 or of 9, but in that area, around 10, and that would be a moment to carefully start transitioning into match play. Play a lot of unlimited games, play with your friends, play with low stakes, don't risk a lot of money with backgammon, especially not against good players, but you can play for a very low stake, the kind of stake that you don't even mind too much if you lost 200 points in one evening. And that would differ from a player to another. This is an old piece of advice by Kit Woolsey. If you play for stakes, take the greatest amount that you are willing to lose in an evening. Let's say that you are willing to lose $100 in an evening, divide that by 200, and that should be the value of a point. $100 divided by 200, that would be 50 cents. So a point would be 50 cents. So even if you lost 30 or 40 points in an evening, that would be $15 or $20. You don't mind so much. That's okay. Play for low stakes and play a lot of unlimited games. Get better before you go into match play. That would be my recommendation. And there are many, many amazing backgammon apps and backgammon platforms when you can play just unlimited games. Many of them, I don't need to recommend anyone specific. Just try it, see which one you like better, which one works for you. There are many free apps. In some of them, you can buy coins or something like that. You don't even have to do that. You can play with the free coins every day. And of course, you can play on Extreme Gammon. You can play against the computer. It comes with different levels of players, or just play live. Not everything has to be online. Play with your friends. Get a good backgammon set. Sit down and play. Play with your family. Teach people the game. Learn from the game. Ask advice. Analyze positions. Now, these two platforms that I'm going to show here, on these two platforms, you play matches. You don't play unlimited games. I think that in Galaxy, maybe they begin to have that. Galaxy is like, I think it's the most popular one. I'm not sure which one is first and which one is second. Let's present Galaxy first, backgammongalaxy.com. Many players, many of the best players in the world, but also many amateurs. Last time I saw it, it was already several years ago. They had like 140,000 players. Maybe it's already more by now, of different levels. They get even ratings according to how well they play. And the second one is called Backgammon Studio Heroes. You can always pause the video and take the URLs and go and explore, open an account. Also, Heroes offers a free account. There are paid plans in both of these platforms. You can explore for yourself the differences between the free content, the free platform, and the paying plans. Obviously, they will change in time. So if you watch this video and it's no longer October 2025, obviously everything can change. Maybe there will be new platforms emerging. But these two are really by far the most popular, especially by strong players, but also with many amateurs with less experience. Very recommended, but you only play their matches to a set number of points, not unlimited games. And this brings us to our second part of the video. All right, we are heading straight into the second part, the analytical part, the technical part of this video. So we go back to Extreme Gammon, and now we are going to use it as an analytical tool. So again, this is something that is actually the crux of the matter, because it's really difficult to become a master if you don't have Extreme Gammon and if you don't know how to use it. And most importantly, if you don't know what to make of its input. Extreme Gammon, I wouldn't recommend it as a tool for working alone for anybody who has an error rate, again, above 10 or 11 or something like this. I found out about Extreme Gammon when I was already an 11 player, like a strong intermediate or almost advanced player, PR 11. And obviously, I didn't even know what my PR or what my error rate was before Extreme Gammon told me. The first edition that I had on that was some kind of a lighter edition that is used on the phone, a phone edition. I personally haven't been able to use it at least for a couple of years. It went bad and then I couldn't get any updates. I think that other people still can use it. Maybe they have different phones. I'm not sure how it works. And apparently a new version is in the works already, but it's been several years that I haven't used it. It's really nice, to play against the computer in various levels and get some limited input. But yes, in the beginning, I was just using it on the phone for half a year, around 2019, like my third year as a player. I got my error rate down from 11 to 9 in these 2 years, thanks to working with the software. And more or less when I reached 9, I got myself the full edition. This was December 2019, just before we were hit with the pandemic. That's another story. But December in 2019, I got myself this full edition of Extreme Gammon. And this is the thing. You're going to get some input from the computer, but you need to understand what it means regarding your play. The computer is mute. It speaks with numbers. It speaks with numbers and preferences. But again, backgammon is about stories. It's about why is this number bigger than that number? What is likely to happen next? So in order for us to demonstrate how you actually work with Extreme Gammon and analyze a match, again, this is mostly for people who are already kind of good. If you want to be able to do that without a teacher or without a coach and really understand everything that it says. So let's demonstrate how it's done. I'm going to share here the most recent match that I played. There is an Israeli league of players, some of them stronger, some of them less strong. And we're going to import this last match that I played. It's by a strong player, a strong guy named Friedrich. You're going to see his name very soon. He's typically a 5 player, like strong master level. But in this game, I think he played a little bit weaker. He had some kind of an outlier result. He won the match, but he played not quite as well. Let's see. Let it open. Okay, it takes a little bit of time to open. And here the match opens. You can see the backgammon board. This is the first roll of the game. It was a 4-1. White rolled 4-1. And we can see already some features of this software. We see here on the right, it says that the score is 0 from 7 and 0 from 7. So it's a match to 7 points. It's 0-0. We see here something called PIP, which is very interesting. Backgammon, of course, is a race, and all of these black checkers have to go around the board and out, and they are 167 steps away from being able to do it in the initial position. If you're not sure about it, you can count the steps. These checkers have 6 steps to clear: 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, etc., etc. So it gives us the scores. Here on the left, we see the two opponents. Hummus, that's my username. Some homage to falafel that I mentioned earlier. And Friedrich, that would be my opponent. All of the analytical features are off because we didn't analyze it yet. And here you see the moves of the first game. That was a very short game, only 5 moves. And White won this game. White means my opponent. Friedrich won this game. He won a point here. It was 1-0. He gave a double. He offered to double the value of the game for 2, and I refused. So he was leading 1-0. And here with the little arrow here, we can click it and see basically the list of the games in this match, but not now because we have here a dialogue. And he's asking me, how do I want to analyze the game? Normally, I use the world-class setting. You can learn about it, of course, in the help file. It should take 5 minutes to analyze it. Let's click review. And let's open a little window here. It's called the session summary inside the Windows menu. Session summary, and we can see the games, how they went game per game. So we see that my opponent was leading 1-0, then 3-0, then I scored a couple of points, but ultimately I lost 2-7. Here it says Crawford, don't pay any attention to it for now. And we're going to go here to the Analyze menu and ask the computer to analyze the session, again, with the same dialogue, world-class level analysis, and we can see how these question marks near the moves begin to disappear as the computer begins to analyze it. We can see already that the first move of my opponent must have been good, and the first move that I played wasn't so good. That's why it's green, and he labels me a casual player based on this one move. And the analysis is going to progress, and little by little, all of these games will be analyzed. And already he sees that I play at a world-class level because he analyzed a few more moves, and the averages are changing. But we're going to pause the recording and meet again with ourselves once this complete match is going to be fully analyzed by the computer. It's not so easy to pause the recording. Alt-P is supposed to do it, but sometimes it doesn't work. So let's do it manually. All right, so we meet again this software, the Extreme Gammon, after it finished analyzing the entire match. It took 9 minutes to analyze it. I was playing the piano in the meantime. I was playing the prelude from the second English suite by Bach, beautiful piece. I really recommend the recording of Martha Argerich online if you can find it, of this English suite. So beautiful. I don't have a recording of my own playing this piece because I'm just learning it now, but probably it won't take too long. And we go back to Backgammon. 9 minutes to analyze it. I played at a level of 5 and something, which is a reasonable level of play for a master. And my opponent didn't play so well. It was closer to 8. You can see here the numbers: 536, 789, with a breakdown of the different games. You see the games in black, basically the games that we played well. I had 3 games in green, intermediate and advanced level, not so good. And my opponent actually played a red level game that probably pulled his performance rating into a little bit higher range. The computer gives him his worst evaluation, distracted for this one game. He probably made a couple of really bad mistakes there. We're going to see very soon. This is the demonstration of this match that I played with this opponent, Friedrich, but mostly of how we actually use the software in order to improve. Let's dive straight into the analysis. This is the technical part of the video. It might be too difficult for certain viewers, so it's okay if it's too hard. Normally, for most players, until they reach a certain level, it's more advisable to always ask some questions. Why does the computer give this evaluation? Why does he think that this move is better or worse? The computer doesn't have the words, the language, the vocabulary to explain it, but strong players in most backgammon forums, and especially your own personal teacher, can provide a good answer for that. For some reason, by the time I started to use this software as a PR9 player, I was a 9 player, and I could generally understand the input of the program, and it really helped me improve. This was the key element of becoming a master through studying alone, working with extreme gammon. Of course, I couldn't understand absolutely everything, but the vast majority, yes, and with some books and resources, and asking advice here and there, asking some questions. I took a lesson with Grandmaster David Presser, an Israeli grandmaster, but this already happened after I made master, and of course working with Grandmaster Ido Levi, but already as a strong player. To get up there, most of the work was analysis with extreme gammon. After I got myself to the advanced level through the use of the books and the articles that you saw earlier in this video. So again, here on the left side, now the box has actually numbers. We see analytical numbers. Earlier it was kind of non-applicable and zeros. And we see here, how many errors each player made. I made 10, my opponent made 9. 3 errors were severe. 2 errors of my opponent were severe, blunders. And this is like in moving the checkers, no, in playing in general. But by using the doubling cube, I made 2 severe errors. My opponent made also 2 severe errors and an extra one that was not severe. So it gives us some details. We're not going to go too deeply into that, but let's examine the play. So my opponent started with a roll of 4-1, and we see that this move is actually appearing as black. This was a good move. I like when I go over my matches to go over mostly my mistakes and blunders. This is where I learned the most, but sometimes also I want to see the good moves played. Sometimes, I was hesitating during the game. Was this really the right decision? I had some other dilemmas in mind. And if you remember, we asked ourselves this question in the beginning of the video. And the question was, when you roll a 4-1 in the opening, is it really the best move to play 4 from the midpoint, from this point in the middle of the board, and 1 from the back? And apparently the answer is yes. This is the top choice of the computer. We can see because it's in the top line. We see it here appearing in the top line, the best move. My answer here wasn't so accurate because with 5-4, I hit my opponent. The computer says that it was better to play from the 24 point, the rearmost point. I should have played 4 from here, move the checker here. Okay, actually, I thought that I was not playing the best move in the game, but I thought it would be more interesting to hit because playing the best move here, you see, I can switch here between the positions. You see here on the left side, it says initial, arrow, final. Arrow, it shows the basic position and what the moves would be. So this checker goes 5 here, and this checker goes 4 here. I can switch to initial, so it appears just the initial position without the arrows. Let's see the arrows again. And I can switch to final, that just shows me the final position. And this is what I didn't really want. I mean, I knew that I was not playing the best move, but this checker here is really vulnerable to attack from the 16, the 17, and the 19. So I prefer to stand here and hit. Probably not the best decision. It's a green move. Green means an error, not a blunder, an error. I lost some value this move, which is clear. But you see that most of the game, most of the moves in this game are black. Only this one appears as green. The black moves are the good moves. A black move is not necessarily the best one. Sometimes there are several black moves, and maybe yours wasn't the best. There can be really very, very tiny errors. But greens are already a sizable error. And of course, we don't see reds here. We do see 1 red. Here, if you see inside this box where it says 2, so it means that my opponent shouldn't have doubled here. He was already too good to double. This is something that we learn as we work with the software and as we read the article. What does it mean being too good to double? I'm going to explain it really, really briefly, not too much in detail. We're going to get there very soon. Just to briefly scan over the moves, here I'm going to switch back to arrow mode instead of final. Here my opponent rolled a 6-3. Remember, I hit him earlier. I hit inside my board. So obviously he was on the bar. And the 6-3 allowed him to come from the bar with a 6 and run outside. Good move. I rolled a 6-1. I broke this point here and started running my back checkers. And I closed the point. There was a loose checker here. I covered it with the 6. My opponent rolled a 6-4. He played 6 from here, 4 from here, and pointed on me. You see, he pointed on me, and I found my way to the bar. I rolled a 3-2. I entered with a 3, and I covered it with my back checker. All very, very good moves. We played, if not the best moves, close to the best move. And my opponent rolled here a very large roll, double sixes, 24 pips to advance. It's an amazing racing roll. So he comes from the back here. He brings this checker to his own part of the board. It's a bit difficult maybe to follow the arrows, but try that. This checker just jumps into the outfield. This checker crosses over to his side of the board, and two checkers move here and create a blockade for my own anchor. These two checkers here, you see? So it's not so easy to pass anymore. But I roll a 5-2, and I play 2 from here and 5 from here with one checker, escape one of my checkers behind this barrier, and put his checker on the bar. He's on the bar here, but he has an amazing roll of double threes. He enters with a 3, he hits me with a 3, and he takes 2 checkers here, from here, 2 spare checkers, and he creates an additional point inside his board, and he puts a second checker on the bar. As you can see, I have 2 checkers on the bar now because of the last move. One checker he hit from the midpoint, and another checker he hit here and made a point. You can see that, 2 checkers on the bar. When you are the attacking player, there is this maxim. Sometimes you have a dilemma between different hitting plays, and some of them permits you to put 1 checker on the bar, and some of them permit you to put 2. Here, obviously, the opponent had many ways of playing double threes. And there is this maxim that they say, 2 on the bar is better by far. And here, indeed, this is the best move, and it's better by far. We didn't speak, of course, that would be the subject of a completely different video lesson. What are the numbers here on the right side? That would take a completely new level of explanation. It would be a completely different video lesson on those numbers here. What do they mean? They are called equities. There are some amazing articles on them. It's not necessarily a very easy subject, but once you understand it, many things become clearer, especially when you work with the software. But you can call it the score of the position. How good is the position? You see that it's a plus here. It's a plus for my opponent, and it's a +1, which is a big number. And all of the other moves, all of the other options that he had to play with the double threes give him scores that are 0.7 at best. And it's a major difference. You see that all of them are in red. It means that all of the other moves here, if he didn't enter with 3, hit me with this checker and took 2 checkers and make a point on my head, every other move is red. Red means a blunder. You see the best move is always black because it's best, and red means blunder. And you see that the distance from the best play to the second best, third place, fourth place, it's over 0.3 of a point. 0.3, 0.3, 0.3, 0.4. But you can already get a blunder, the red color, from 0.08. You see? So this would be quadruple blunders. 0.32 is 4 times a blunder. 0.08 would already be a blunder. So here this is clearly 2 on the bar is really, really better by far. There was nothing better. This is a really, really powerful move. On my next roll, I enter with 1 checker only. I rolled a 4-2. Of course, I cannot enter with 2, but I do enter with 4. So the opponent is ready to pounce. He has 6 checkers here in the outfield, ready to hit this checker and maybe point on it ahead. A second checker is still on the bar. We can see the position after that. And obviously, after I enter this checker, it is my opponent's turn again, and he offers to double the game. And if I accept that, I'm very, very likely to be gammoned. If we look here in this little box, this is the doubling box, and we see the white checker here with the numbers. So my opponent wins this 78% of the time, and I win 22% of the time. This is not a lesson on the doubling cube, but we can see here in the parentheses, it says how many of these wins are actually gammon wins, where you score double the points. It says 54%. That's over half of the games I'm going to lose by a gammon. So he proposes to double the stakes. We are playing a match to 7 points. If I accept the cube, this game is going to be played for a value of 2. So a gammon means that I'm losing 4 points in this game, and in the next game, the score will be 0-4. And this will happen more than 1/2 of the times if I accept the cube. If I drop the cube, my opponent leads 0-1, and still there is everything to play for. 0-1 is not such a big advantage when you play to 7. You can start a new game and you're just down by 1 point. It was so obvious to refuse this cube that actually my opponent shouldn't have given it. And this is the error. It's called too good to double. My opponent should have kept the cube in the center and keeps playing, because even with the cube in the center, those gammons would be worth 2 points to my opponent instead of one, and he should have tried a little longer to maybe get a gammon without asking me if I accept to double the stakes. Isn't that funny? He's asking me, Isaac, would you like to play this for 2 points? And because he asks my opinion, I can say no, please, and take 1 point. And instead of asking me, he could just play this game straight and most likely they'll not win the 2 points anyway by winning a gammon. This is a dangerous strategy. You cannot always apply it. And part of the wisdom and experience and skill of the game is knowing when you're too good and you should just play on and hope to score a gammon or maybe even a backgammon in some cases. Here, that's not very likely. It's less than 1%, but in some cases, backgammons are definitely on the table. Or maybe you should offer a doubling cube, offer to your opponent the choice whether to double the stakes and play for 2 points or drop the cube and give him only 1 point. Here he was too good. He should have just played on. It was really clear. You see that the difference, you don't see that, but I will tell you that the difference here in parentheses is 0.13. This is why it was a blunder for him to offer this cube. And of course, like the saying goes, I dropped this cube like a hot potato. Actually, I did think a little bit, but no, it was obvious that I'm going to drop it. It would be even a much greater blunder to accept this cube. And well, sometimes you do that. Sometimes you offer a cube that you know that you're too good and you hope that maybe your opponent will take. And people sometimes take these cubes. It's not always so bad to do. But no, here it was pretty clear that with one checker on the bar, and this checker here, very vulnerable, and 6 attackers coming in, and he already has 3 points inside his board. And even if I survive this, my own front is not so impressive. I don't have much of a structure here, very isolated points. So it was quite obvious that I just want to drop this cube and go to the next game. And we look into game 2. So this is basically how you work with the software. You look at the games, you see what is an error, what is a blunder, you can see the percentages. Here it was the percentages of a doubling decision. A good player can even evaluate during the game how likely he is to win and how likely he is to lose, and how likely are gammons in his favor and in the opponent's favor. And he can make quite complex calculations in his head if, based on these percentages, he should take or pass a cube. Already in unlimited games, that's quite an achievement, but doing that in match play, when the different percentages mean different things regarding the question if I take or pass a cube, according to the score, if I'm leading, if I'm behind. These are the skills of a master, and you develop them gradually by means of this work after you read a lot of materials, and that's how you work with the software. Let's do another game. This game already has one blunder, one checker play blunder. We see it stands out in red. I played a move that was obviously very, very bad. It was actually almost a triple blunder. You see, I mouse over this move, and the computer tells me the size of the blunder. It says here checker play blunder minus 0.238. You see, that's almost a triple of 0.08. Awful move, just one. All of the other moves were good, except that I blundered again in this move by offering a double when I wasn't supposed to. This is why it's pink. If it was green, it was maybe a slight error to offer a double. We will see why. We will try to understand, but let's go by the order. My opponent played the best possible role in the opening, 3-1. Nothing beats a 3-1 in the opening. You make a very valuable point. It's called the 5 point, the golden point. My opponent makes it here. And I answered with the 5-2, coming down from the midpoint with the 5 and playing the 2 from the back. Best move again. I want to split these back checkers. I want to start them running because I already have evidence that the opponent has blocking intentions. He wants to block me. He wants to create here a solid barrier that will never allow me to run out. So I better start moving. It's not urgent. It's not like tomorrow is going to have 6 points that completely block my passage. Most of the checkers necessary for that are not even in the right part of the board yet. They're still here. But it's better to start moving now than be stuck in the back and see him build the wall against me. Good time to move. And I bring some firepower to my own attacking front with the 5-2. The opponent rolls a 5-1. He makes his structure a bit more robust by bringing a checker into the attacking zone from the midpoint with the 5. And he adds a little bit of flexibility to his play because obviously when you have just 2 checkers on a point, you don't want to play from there because you will break that point. So you want to have a spare on that point. Currently, the 6 point has 2 spares. So it's better to have 1 spare on the 6, one spare on the 5. This way, no matter what you roll, chances are you will be able to play from this point or another if this would be the best place. And I roll the double twos, which is a great roll. I make also a point inside my board, like my opponent did. It's a very good point, the 4 point. I made an anchor because my opponent is threatening to start attacking me, here with 9 checkers in the attacking zone and a lot of flexibility. He has a spare on each point already to move and attack, so I close it before it's too late. And I managed to advance, you see from the beginning, when my anchor was completely in the back. Now I'm a little bit further along. You see the final position here. I have 2 checkers here. So it will not be so easy to create a blockade in front of me. It will take a lot of extra work. It's much easier to blockade me if I'm all the way back. I made some progress, and I brought a checker down from the midpoint in order to try to create more points and maybe block my opponent. My opponent rolls a 5-3. He brings two more checkers down. I roll another double two. It's not so effective as the first one, but still I managed to create a point. It's my 9 point, you see. I bring one checker down from the 13 and bring this checker from the 11 and create this point. And I still have a 2 remaining to play, which is kind of almost meaningless. I bring a checker from 1 point to another, and my position here is reasonably good. My anchor is more advanced than his. I have a little bit of a better structure than him. He rolls a 5-2, and he opens a checker in front of my attacking front. And I very optimistically also seeing that I'm a little bit behind, trailing 0-1. So I thought this would be a good moment to double the game, to double the stakes. If you count how many checkers I have here, 2 plus 4 is 6, plus 3 is 9, plus 2 are 11 checkers. If I wanted to make all of my points inside my board, I need 12 checkers. I'm 1 checker short of closing him out. He has open checkers. I can attack them from 3 different points. I'm safe. He cannot attack me. So I thought that this would be a great moment to double. Apparently, it's still a little bit early. You see that if I don't double, my advantage is bigger than if I double, and it takes. Of course, it takes. There is no reason to drop this cube. And the difference between the value of my position if I don't double and the value of it if I do double is enough for it to be a blunder. It's basically 0.1. It's a clear blunder. And how does he explain? He says, yes, Isaac, you are winning here quite a number of gammons. 20% of the time you are going to be winning a gammon. Compare this to the last game when I had to drop the cube. Here, my opponent was winning a gammon over 50% of the time. This was so high, it was way too. The problem is not the gammons. Yes, it's true that I win gammons quite often. However, these back checkers, I was really optimistic with the cube. They still have some escaping to do. If I roll double, they run straight away, but most of the time they're not going to be escaping together. Only one of them is going to run away, and then he has an opportunity to attack the other one. Many things can happen. And as you can see, I don't win these games so frequently, only 59% of the time. That's still not often enough in this score. I'm not behind by that much. It's only 0-1. Too early to give a cube. I'm not winning by that much. It can easily go the other way, and then the opponent can redouble me to 4. So it was better to keep the cube in the center and leave this weapon of the doubling cube for later when my advantage is even more pronounced. That was a clear blunder. Okay, and I rolled a 6-1 and I made another blockading point here, to which the opponent answered with a 3-1, and he was very happy to hit this checker that was left behind. This parley, you call it a parley, my move and then the opponent moves, 2 moves, like a move and the reply, that's called the parley in backgammon. This parley, I think that it leaves both of the players satisfied, but maybe me a little bit more satisfied, because I made a really key blockading point. This is a clear blockading structure that can also be used later for attacking if he doesn't cover it. But my opponent gains time by hitting one of my own checkers. I have to enter from the bar. I don't have time to attack. So I'm entering with the 1. You notice I roll 1-5. I cannot enter with 5. I have to enter with 1, and I have to play the 5 somewhere. It's not that I enjoy hitting this checker necessarily, but everything else is much worse. Everything else, again, is a blunder. It's in red. We see that. So I hit this back checker, and he rolls 1 with the dice, and he hits me back, and he closes a point here. Here. You see, this is a black move. It's black. I thought during the game that it was actually better to make this anchor, but it's a very bad move. If he made the anchor, that would be a very big blunder. Let's look at this move. If he enters on 1, hitting me and making the anchor, let's look at this. This is the final position of him making an anchor, and he very successfully blockaded himself. These games are played, of course, with a timer, and sometimes you are a lot wiser when the computer gives you the answer than you are on your own. So fortunately, this doesn't count as a blunder for me because it was my opponent's turn, but I completely misjudged it. I thought that it's good to make this anchor, but actually it's quite bad. He should have played this checker. This checker here, he should have played forward and try either to anchor in a really advanced position or try to run away, while my checkers are still in the back. That would be the best choice. He made the second best choice, but it's still in black, still a very good move, hitting me and closing a point on the front. I entered with a 3-6, I entered here on 22 and ran outside. That's a good move. My opponent played the only reasonable play with the 3-6. He made an extra point inside his board. From these 2 points that are quite high, he still leaves spare checkers on both of them, still a flexible structure. That's not a very good roll, but he managed to make a point inside his board. And here is the moment when I played a really bad move, because it is true that it's really a very bad, it's a triple blunder. I should simply run from the back and secure myself outside. The problem is not that I'm hitting a checker. The problem is that I'm breaking the barrier. This is now, if you look at the final position, there is actually my blockading structure is now badly compromised. Of course, he can enter on 5 and jump and run away. And there is also this block to hit, completely breaking my structure apart. Sometimes it's really attractive, to hit a checker and make a point on his head. It's really an attractive play, very tempting and hard to resist. This is the checker that is the frontmost, but actually this checker is not even threatening to escape, because if you see, if he rolls a 6, if he rolls a 5, if he rolls a 4, he's blockaded. He needs to roll a very specific 2-5 or 2-6 to escape in one move. There was no urgency to hit it and put it on the bar, and this was probably my worst mistake until this point with the 5-3. My opponent here rolls a 2 and enters and hit me with the 1. Also, all of the alternatives are probably worse. But here, for example, we could ask a question: why risk leaving a blot open inside his own board with the 4 when he can actually enter here and play 4 from the back? And that would be an interesting question. And this is one of the greatest uses of the software, how we are going to learn from it and understand from it what are going to be the resulting stories from 2 different plays. And this is really quite interesting. As this program continues, obviously, we are going more and more into technicalities, more and more into specifics. This is less and less for everyone. And it reminds me of these videos. You probably know these videos that they show a couple having a picnic in the park. And then you see that the camera goes closer and closer and closer. And finally, you see the cells of the skin and the subatomic particles. And, you go closer and closer and closer. And this is a little bit what we are doing in this program. We started with a very general discussion of books and articles and themes. We presented the software. We saw how we go over the game. And now we are going to dive even deeper. We're going to use the input that we get from the software to try to get some conclusions from it for close decisions, which is a big part of the work of how you become a better player. And we're even going to look into some of the special features of this software in order to see how strong players really improve their play. And of course, incidentally, how we teachers work with students on occasion. So that's quite a legitimate question. What happened if after entering with 2, instead of hitting with 4, we actually advanced the back checker here? Again, a move that looks completely reasonable because we threaten to escape. If we come here to the 20, you see, let's look at this move here. Look at the final position. We come here to the 20. You see, we play the 4 from the back. We threaten to escape. We threaten to anchor. Why is it the worst decision? And we notice, by the way, that if we look at the moves, the first one is always black. It's the correct move. But this is the second best move, and it's green. It's not quite a blunder. It is wrong by 0.07. Blunder is 0.08, so it's not quite a blunder. It's still an error, a sizable error, but not a blunder. So it means that it's a reasonable idea, but not the best idea. How do we understand that? We can simply look at the position and draw some conclusions. For example, we discover in the position that if he hits me, I'm a little bit on the wrong foot because I have to come in from the bar. Let's look at the final position after the main move. I'm on the bar here. He has an open blot here, of course, but I can roll 2s or 5s or 6s and stay on the bar and give him a chance to escape hitting this checker, this vulnerable checker with a 6, or hit this checker. Simply, we are off of our footing, putting us on the bar. So it's quite important in a position in which we are already vulnerable because we have other exposed blots. and we give him maybe the time to enter. He's taking the risk, he's hitting. The computer basically weights, weight, no? He weights and balances all of the possible roles, and he kind of balances the importances of the best case scenarios and the worst case scenario. We're going to see how this happens, of course, how this happens very soon. But he's making a general decision that actually it's better to hit. And I was explaining the results verbally, but we are going to see it in the language of the computer very soon. Before we go that deep, let's try at the intermediate level of complexity. Instead of just intuitively speaking of what's happening in the board, let's dive a little bit deeper into the analysis. So if we see here, here we have on the left side, of course, the list of top moves, of the best moves. Other than the top two, everything else is a blunder. We don't need to look into it. We don't need to look into moves like entering on 23 and then playing from the 8. You see this one. Leaving a blot here when I can hit it two different ways. Obviously, that's bad. And the other moves are even worse. So there are basically two moves worthy of consideration. In both cases, you must end with the 2. How do you play the 4? Hitting is best. Coming to the 4 here, coming to the 20 point is second best. Now we can look and see that under the move, we have numbers, we have percentages. By the way, I hope that you are watching this program on a computer and not on your phone, because some of these small type things, small print things, will be impossible for you to see on a phone. You need to watch it on the computer. This is the first moment that it really becomes absolutely necessary to say that. So probably those players who didn't go into this level of specifics, they did quite well also watching on the phone, got a lot of ideas and tips on how to become a strong master through individual and independent study. But for those of us who actually go deeper, yes, we do need the computer now because otherwise these numbers are too small. Below the moves, we see the numbers, and it says P, and then numbers, 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 and then it says O, numbers, numbers, numbers. Let's understand what this means. We can actually change the view. If we don't like that, we can right-click here, and it says display as. Where do we see that? Where do we see that? Here. Match winning chances. No, that's not what I was looking for. How do we do this? Let's pause the recording for a second. And we're back. Of course, I rediscovered how to do it. We right click here and we say display winning percentages as graphic bars. When we're just getting started with extreme gammon, it's much more convenient to work with this beautiful colored bar. And we see the greens. You see the greens are winning chances, the yellows are gammon chances, and there is a line in the middle. This is very friendly to see. And we see that the top move wins a little bit more frequently because the black line is a little bit to the right compared to here. You see? Maybe you don't see. Maybe you want to see numbers. Like me, I work with numbers. So I go here to display winning chances as values. And we see that the player, the P means player and O means opponent, okay? The player here is white, is my opponent. It's a bit confusing because for every move, the identity of who the player is and who the opponent is changes. So this move is by white, the player is my opponent. So for the player, if he hits here, he wins 47% of the time. And if he plays the second best move, he wins only 45% of the time. And this is meaningful. The computer can analyze that. It can look several moves ahead with all of the possible roles and compute how likely each player is likely to win. And it's surprisingly accurate. You test it, you check it, and you see that these percentages are pretty much accurate. The proof is that this is the basis for its own play, and we still don't have a human player who is capable of scoring 50% against the computer. So if anybody knows what's what in a certain position, it's the computer. It doesn't mean that we should believe these percentages blindly, but this is probably the best we have. So apparently the best move here wins a little bit too often than the second best move, and he also wins a gammon more often. The second number here is a gammon. With the best move, because he puts me on the bar, he wins a gammon 20% of the time, and running ahead only wins a gammon 17% of the time. Now, these are the gammons and the games that the opponent wins. The opponent is me. I win, of course, if the opponent wins 47, I win 53. It always completes to 100. If he wins 45, I will win 55. That makes sense. However, he also tells me how often I win a gammon. I'm the opponent. I'm the villain. I'm the enemy. He should displease me. And with the move of running forward, I win slightly more gammons than otherwise. If he hits me, I only win a gammon 16% of the time. And if he runs forward, I win a gammon 17% of the time. This means that even though the difference is not fully a blunder, my opponent scores better in all parameters. He wins more often, he wins a gammon more often, and he loses a gammon less often if he hits, which he did in the game. So basically, we understand from this that this specific position is about initiative. Both players have vulnerability, and there is an extra value of putting the opponent on the bar. It's an immediate tactical consideration. Put him on the bar, so he must have a problem of coming in from the bar, and he cannot attack us. That's why he needs to be hitting first and not try to advance and put himself in a vulnerable position where I can suddenly be the one hitting him, attacking him, doing whatever I want with my move. It's not always correct to move, to hit, but in many cases it is. This is one of these cases. The study of the percentages allowed me to see what would be the best move here and why. And once I saw that all of the parameters are slightly better with the hitting play, this led me to the understanding that this position is about the initiative, keeping the opponent on the left foot, putting the opponent on the bar, forcing the opponent to solve an immediate problem before he can force us to solve an immediate problem. I'm going to probably finish the video after we finish this specific game. Otherwise, it will be way too long. I already gave a very clear idea about the route to improvement, but we are still inside the game and we didn't finish it yet. So I'm going to use this specific position in order to go one layer of complexity deeper. This program, Extreme Gammon, has many special features, as I told you. Many of them are really beyond the scope of this video, but I'm going to discuss one still. There is a feature that is called dice distribution. We know that the computer reaches the evaluation by examining all of the possible roles for himself and for us. This is a little bit of a pain in the eyes, not as the normal expression goes that I'm not going to mention here. It's a pain for the eyes to see so many tables and so many numbers. Number crunching is a big part of becoming a good player. And when you get really good, you gain the ability to discriminate or differentiate between what is really major and what is really meaningful and what is not so important. So you can look at a table with 1,000 numbers and see the 2 or 3 numbers that really stand out and understand, okay, this is important. Basically, backgammon mastery is being able to tell the importances in a position, the important consideration. Is it more important to run, to blockade, to attack? What is really the key feature of a position? And if you're not sure, you need to be able to understand that from the computer input. And if you cannot do that, there are always people to ask, there are always people to consult with. All right, so let's look at dice distribution. I take it the top 2 plays. I press Control. By the way, I'm working from a PC, not from a Mac. It might be different on a Mac. I hit the Control button, and I click the second best move, and now I have both of them selected. Now I right-click here, and I can choose dice distribution. And we are going to see here all of the possible roles from this position for me. I'm now in the position of opponent. Let's minimize them or move them a little bit so that they don't completely cover the board. This would be too small. I want to see all of the roles still, right? All of the roles for me after the opponent's turn. Okay, so now I got it. These are all of my roles after the hitting play. And now let's look at all of my roles after the advancing play. The mistake, no? Let's put them a little bit on the side. There is so much that we can learn from that. But we can look at something that is called dice map, just to simplify it. And we see here, you see the greens are the roles that will play very well for my opponent. So let's look at this one, the 5-1, when he hits me and puts me on the bar. And we see all of the beautiful deep greens here that say 0.528, which is a big number in favor of my opponent. If I roll all of the 6s, the 5s, and 2s and stay on the bar next turn, after he hit me, we don't see this play right now on the main position. So let's change it a little bit. Let's show the main move, and let's show the final position with me on the bar. Let's move again to dice distribution. I control select here, I right click, I choose the right dice distribution. I put this position, these windows here on the left so they don't obscure my position. And we are already in dice map, and we see with the hitting play, why am I not on the bar? Because we are not in the right play. I don't understand this. This is funny. All right, let's try this again. I see what happens. Now he shows me the final position, but as soon as so let's try to be clever. Let's select this one later. And now, yes, apparently the last position I selected, this is the one I'm going to see. Okay, I'm also learning with this video. Dice distribution, let's put them on the corner, on the side. Now we can actually talk about this. So you see all of these deep greens here are whenever I roll any combination of twos, fives, and sixes from the bar, and I stay on the bar because I cannot enter on six, cannot enter on five, cannot enter on two. This is really great for my opponent. It's in green. Contrast this with the case where I roll four with one die and four with the other, double fours. This is really, really bad for my opponent because I enter the checker and I can do some actual damage on the other side. For example, after entering with this checker, I can take these two checker here and block this board point against him, which will be quite painful for him. This is why it's red. You see, the oranges are still not so good for the computer. The yellows are kind of average, so and so. Then you have the light greens that are kind of beginning to be good. This one is even better. And the best ones are the deep green. You see the dice map, the heat map. So it shows after each of the candidate plays for my opponent, what does he want me to roll and what does he not want me to roll. And then obviously he averages everything out and he decides that the best move would be plus 0.069. And with the second best play, it would be only plus 0.016. By the way, inside the dice map, we see that the numbers are slightly different. The difference is slightly different between these two plays, different algorithms, slightly different results, nothing to get excited about. It's still pretty clear which play is the best. Dice distribution does that. And in some cases, we want to actually look at the individual rolls, how we are going to play them. We can also do that. We go back to details. And we see, for example, that if I roll, after being hit, if I roll double fours, best would be to enter here on this point with this checker. It's called bar 21. This point is now appearing at number 4 when it's my opponent's turn. When it will be my turn, it will be my own 21 point. Again, it's a bit complex. Enter here, take these two checkers and create a point. So I have a beautiful barrier of 5 points and play this checker here so it's not isolated anymore. With time and with experience, we learn to read backgammon notation and translate in our minds between these figures and numbers and actual plays on the board and what they mean. We get good in abstraction, we get good in understanding without moving the pieces, what the moves will be and what problems they will pose to us or to our opponent. And this is basically, in a nutshell, the road to mastery of the game. When you walk alone, obviously nobody needs to walk alone. We have a beautiful organization that is called the Backgammon Learning Center, which is probably the best place in the world in order to study backgammon with a teacher founded by Phil Simborg, that we mentioned before, one of the creators of Extreme Gammon, a very capable, I think, also a pickleball player and a gin rummy player, and he probably excels also in a number of other games. One of the best backgammon teachers in the world, if not actually number one, excellent in breaking down concepts and explaining them. He founded the Backgammon Learning Center, and we have some of the best teachers in the world. Some of you will recognize some of them. This is, I think he was several times American champion, if I'm not mistaken, Grandmaster Steve Sachs, Grandmaster Michihito Kageyama, who also wrote some excellent books that I didn't speak about in this program, but they are absolutely awesome, all three of them. Beautiful sense of humor, very charming fellow, and many other good players here. Phil Simborg, Perry Gardner, co-founder of the Backgammon Learning Center. Well, you will find me also in this list. I'm teaching with the Backgammon Learning Center. What is special about the Backgammon Learning Center is that we are working with prepared lesson plans. Yes, pre-packaged, you can say, over 130 different lesson plans on every aspect of the game, from the very basics to more advanced concepts. And basically, this is the making of a strong master or grandmaster or competitive player, when somebody fully masters all of these lesson plans, accompanied by a teacher that can actually not only help you clarify the things that you didn't understand, but it can also help you detect flaws in your own way of thinking, in your own way of play, recurring errors and blunders, what you need to change in your thinking, in your work, in your training, what to work on. I mean, obviously, it's a lot easier when you work with a coach. It's possible to do it alone. This is what we are showing in this video. And let's go back to the game. So in this game, we see that the best play here with the 4-2 is entering with 2 and hitting with the 4. By now, it should be pretty clear. If it's not really clear, you can leave a comment under this video and ask whatever is not clear for you. We will try to clarify it. And he did hit me with the 4. I stayed on the bar. I couldn't move. I rolled the double 6. And my opponent here obviously still cannot really redouble the stakes. It's too early. We put checkers stack back. And he's also structuring the front. Is full of holes. It's a little bit like Swiss cheese. I do have an anchor inside this position. It's not quite good enough to redouble. But after I didn't enter from the bar, we can look here at the redoubling decision. Here it would be a big, big blunder to double. The evaluation goes all the way from 0.5 to 0.2. It's a huge quadruple blunder to do that, even though it does win 60% of the time. And actually 35% of the time he wins by a gammon. So we say, wait a minute, this is a very powerful position for the opponent. Why shouldn't he redouble? And the answer for that would be very simple. And this also shows us why we don't want to play matches too early before we are really good in basic backgammon in unlimited games. First of all, he's not winning that often yet. 60% is not that hot. However, if this wasn't match play, if this was unlimited play, we can do something else here. You see, I'm going to click on the position. I'm going to click on Control C, and now I copy the position, and I'm going to open a new instance of Extreme Gammon, and we're going to do something else in order to ask this question from ourselves. We are going to explain in quite an advanced concept. Some of our viewers can already guess the content of the following 5 minutes of the video. I'm passing a little bit the time until he opens this new instance of Extreme Gammon. No limit of how many of them we can open, but they consume memory. That's the problem. They slow down everything. And we choose this time set up a position, Control V, paste. Simply paste the same position, but we can play with the parameters. You can see here, when it says player 1, you can see that we have pre-selected match play because when we copied the position, we also copied the specifics that we are playing black and we are playing a match to 7, match length says 7, the score is 0-1, white is leading by 1 play, even the doubling cube position is copied and recorded, every feature of the position is copied. But now we change from match play to unlimited games, and now we are going to ask the same question, was that a good moment to double for my opponent or not? We can see here that it is white to move because the dice have a white color. If we click here, we can make it black to move, you see? Change the turn. These green arrows, we change it to black, and now we change it to white. And we know that white needs to decide whether it's time to double or not, because obviously we see the dice on the side of the board rather than in the middle of the board. And we see here there is a little menu that says that we are actually examining double action. Is this the moment to double, in this case redouble, because white has already been doubled in this game? Is it a moment to redouble to 4, or is it too early to do it, or too late? Maybe it's too good. We can decide if we want to look at a check and play or at take pass decision, but this is a double action. And we press here the plus button in order to make some kind of a level of analysis by the computer. It will take a number of seconds for the computer to reach a decision. And we see here that this is not quite a moment to double, but notice that the numbers are really close. It's a very minor error by 0.015. So basically, it almost doesn't matter if you double or not, if this was an unlimited game. If this wasn't a game that was a part of a match, you see that doubling here is, you couldn't even say that it was really wrong to double. If white doubles him, we cannot blame him. He does win 60% of the time. That is not that often. But because he wins a gammon so often, 36%, it's quite reasonable to offer the doubling cube to your opponent and offer to play for 4 points. If you're playing this for money and every point is worth $1 or $10 or $100, choose the amount that hurts you reasonably. You don't want to receive the cube and receive an offer in this position to play for 4 points. And of course, I remind you that if you get gammoned, you lose 8 points, and it's very unpleasant. So technically, it's not exactly accurate to offer the cube here. You see, it's a very, very tiny error to do that. Your value of the position goes down from 0.675 to 0.660, really microscopical. It's reasonable to redouble this position if the game is an unlimited game. But we go back to the match, and we see that here in this position in the match, let's just open it. Where is it? Okay, that's not so easy to do, but here, in the actual match, it was a massive blunder. You lose here, you drop from 0.542 to 0.215, a big drop of 0.327. It's a huge drop. It's a quadruple blunder. What changed? I will still lose if he redoubles me to 4. I will still lose 8 points in the match if I get gammoned, and that happens 36% of the time. Isn't this just a shortcut for my opponent's victory? This is interesting. But then we begin to understand what's happening here. My opponent is already leading in the match, and the cube is already in 2, right? If he doesn't redouble this position and he wins the gammon, he will be leading 5-0, which is awesome. For him, it's really good to keep the cube on 2, because if he redoubles me to 4, you see, he only wins here 60% of the time. I do win 40% of the time. The game can easily go the other way, and I will be eager to redouble back to 8 and play for the entire match this game, and gammons don't matter. Because in a match to 7, the player who wins the game, when the game is for 8 points, wins the match. So his advantage doesn't count. He's leading 1-0. Gammons don't matter, and gammon actually are the main power that he has in this position. Already, even if the cube is on 4 points, he's leading 5-0 just from winning the game with the cube on 4. It doesn't get that much of an added value with the cube being on 4. Going from 5-0 to 7-0, 5-0, you are very likely winning already. Strong players know how to work with the different scores of the match and take practical cubing decisions. But you see how different this is from unlimited play. It's really, really different. As the leader, and especially because the cube is already on 2, you should be very, very careful doubling again, redoubling, especially when there are many possibilities of a gammon in the position. And this really demonstrates how wrong you can go by redoubling a position when there are many gammons when you are already leading in the score. Very, very bad decision because of the match score. Don't play matches before you understand very well checker play and cube consideration for unlimited games. It's a lot simpler to play unlimited games. Master this first, become an error rate 12 or 11 or 9 or 8 player or 10 player before you begin to attempt to understand match play and to play too many matches, not recommended. And there you go. We're close to the end of this game. Here the opponent, of course, shouldn't double. He didn't. It's a good player. He played 6-4 by running both of the checkers from the bar. Clearly the best move, and he also hit me on the way out. By the way, compare this position with the position before I rolled 6-5-3. I had a very, very solid barrier here, and it shows why it was so wrong to play 5-3 and point on his head. Make a new board point and send it to the bar. You see, I make a new point, I send him to the bar. This was wrong exactly because of the vulnerability. Just like in chess, sometimes you create a vulnerability that cannot be exploited immediately, but in the long run, it goes definitely against me. This is a long-term vulnerability when you break your structure in order to score an immediate satisfaction, like hitting a checker and making a new board point, especially when it's your 3rd point. Maybe it was different if it was my 5th point. The board is really, really strong and I'm closing it up. But when it's only the 3rd point, it's still a little bit weak. The vulnerability was much more important than hitting the checker and keeping it on the bar. I still have so many checkers back. This game is so long. It can go so many different ways. And notice that because I did that, because I decided to use 2 checkers from the barrier to hit rather than escaping a checker, my winning chances went all the way down from 64 to 56. 64 is a very clear favorite to win the games. 56 is close to equal, and it's really dangerous when you already gave the doubling cube to your opponent because you bring closer the moment in which the opponent will offer you back the cube. You see, it's not so hard to imagine how he's going to win from here. And we see this. He hits here to gain time with the 4-2. I cannot enter with the double sixes. Next turn, he's running from the back, putting me on the bar again. I do enter the checker, but I still have a 2nd checker on the bar. And here he could already consider doubling. You see, I still have a checker on the bar. He's already in the final stages of escaping, very likely to win. We see here that it's almost the moment for him to double. He's winning an astronomical amount of gammons here, 41%. But for the gammons, it's still better for him to have the cube on 2. This is why it's still not quite a redouble because of all of the gammons. He's winning 69%. In normal situations, that would be very worthy of a cube turn. Not at this score with the cube already at 2. Still a little bit of restraint, but already not a big deal if he decides to redouble anyway. It's already more academical. It's a small mistake, only wrong by 0.033. But he hits me with the double 2. You see, he hits here. I roll double two again, and I cannot enter with these two checkers. But here, doubling to four again is a blunder of the same type. The position is so good, is so strong. This checker is open. Even if he doesn't close it and I hit it by mistake, he can still quite easily enter and run away. No big deal. It's true that he loses 22% of the time, so I can understand why he wants to offer a cube that I cannot take and score 2 points in the match, go from 1-0 to 3-0. However, 57% of the games will end in a gammon. So instead of giving a cube and insisting on receiving 2 points, he's very, very likely to actually score 4 points from this game because the cube is on two and is likely to win a gammon, which doubles the amount of points shown on the cube, winning 4 points, going 5-0. He should have held the cube and played another move and seeing what happens then. Without entering into too many details, we leave this match here after I actually lost the first two games and I'm behind 0-3. The rest of the match also didn't go that well. I did play reasonably well here. I played 5.36, I think it was. And well, sometimes you play well and you still lose. This is part of the game. And the mastery of the game doesn't depend on the results, what you win, what you lose. It's really how well you play, how accurate you play. The ways to get there are by reading and understanding different types of positions, different types of situations from the books, from the articles, or walking them over with an experienced teacher from the Backgammon Learning Center. And the lesson plans are going to cover all types of plays, all types of positions and situations, and also all of the moments when the play or the position doesn't exactly fall into one of the types, when there is competition between the types, how to make up our mind, or obviously do it alone, working with extreme gammon and understanding from the raw data of the computer what actually is the story that we are told by each individual position. I hope that you enjoyed this program, and I sign off.